Ocean Beach, Rhyl, North Wales. This is Rhyl's Misery Line, where passengers insist on a hellish time.
But it's more than a business, it's a way of life. The building itself is probably 35 years of age, but the cars and the track, they go back to probably early 30s. My brothers ran it before me, and now it's my turn. I've got another 50 years to go, I think, or something like that. I get a gold medal then, you know. They put me inside. The rest of the family are in there.
It costs Noah Robinson's thrill-seeking passengers 80 pence to ride 100 yards of twisting, turning single track, all set out in the space of a small bungalow.
Go around corners easily. It's a single-wheel drive. It's the narrowest gauge because it's a single rail, and you can't get any smaller than a single rail.
High up in the Welsh mountains lie the ghosts of another rail system. Locomotives in slate quarries had to twist and turn around tight curves. Though not as flexible as a single rail, this 2-foot narrow gauge track is the next best thing. This loco is a soldier of a revolution that mechanised these mountains. Thomas Bach, now tarted up in Thomas the Tank Engine livery, worked the Dinorwic slate quarry for 60 years. Tom Roberts was one of its drivers.
Fama dechreuais i weithio yn y gwylod yma. Fel stocar mewn ffordd, taniwr mewn ffordd. Wedyn oeddech chi'n troi y pwynt. Oedd yr injan ddim yn stopio neu byd i droi y pwynt. Oedd y dreifar mo'n deitha chi wedyn oeddech chi'n gwybod gwibio o'r injan i droi y pwynt. Na ddim stopio na ddim byd. Wel, yn y chwarel oedd wahanol i fama chi, wahanol i fama de. Chos doedd gennych chi'n cab na'n byd de. Na dim byd ar yr intis mewn y chwarel. Wedyn o'ch chi'n... Chi oedd y rhedag y bonc mewn ffordd. O'ch chi y galeri yn Saesneg mewn ffordd de. Rhedag y bonc. Wedyn o'ch chi'n gwybod mynd â wageni'r chwarelwyr ag y ceir maen nhw'n galw nhw i gario cerig a dod â nhw allan o'r twll a i'r ben y gillti gael ei gwllwng i lawr i'r sedia. O calad iawn de, chydig iawn o bres de. Fwyd calad iawn de.
This film was shot at the Dinorwic loading sheds in 1959. On the right is Tom Roberts' father dispatching roofing slate for transport to the quarry's own port.
Dyna chi pam ddweud i'r chwarel am bod yn had yn gweithio yma. Wedyn o ryw naturiol am tad a mad oedd i'r chwarel dwi'n meddwl.
Thomas Bach still labours for a major Welsh industry, but tourists, not slate, are now hauled along the scenic route to Port Dinorwic. Around 20 of these classic little quarry locos survive in working order. But there's only one of these that works. Alf Fisher bought it in 1960.
These engines were sold by weight in those days, you know, almost so much a pound. And I picked this one, not through any great foresight, as here was a valuable engine. It was because it was the smallest I could possibly find. And at the time I bought it, for £21, everybody said, "You're mad, you know, why don't you buy a proper engine?"
Though it looks more like a Meccano set, in fact, this is a proper engine. Alf's loco was one of the first to bring the Industrial Revolution to quarries.
And it was only about 1869 to 70 that somebody had the bright idea of putting steam engines in the quarries to replace the horses.
Challoner was made by a firm of marine engineers. Its upright boiler has more in common with a steamship.
This vertical boiler type of engine, for a start, it's very, very rugged and very robust, and it's very, very simple to build. Now, as far as the quarries were concerned, it was fine because it's very quick to light up and produce the heat, because it's like a kettle. In fact, it's very often called a coffee pot is the name for this type of engine. It's also sometimes called the galloping tea urn, but never mind. We put the fire underneath, the water is above it, the heat goes straight up these tubes, and it therefore brews up very, very quickly. Whereas in a conventional engine, the heat has to pass along tubes that way and out of the chimney. So we can produce heat very, very quickly indeed. Conversely, a lot of heat is wasted and goes out of the chimney. So that's the disadvantage of it. The other thing about it is that we have to bolt the cylinders onto the front of the boiler. They are vertical as well. So instead of driving back and forwards like a conventional engine, they drive up and down, and they're bolted to the boiler there, and this means, of course, that they haven't got any springs. Now, this is all very well if you're on beautiful level track, but in the quarries, the track got a bit rough, and therefore, if you came to a bit where you had a curve and the track dipped down a bit, there's a great tendency with these engines to go straight on and come off, you see. But having said that, it's a very surprisingly smooth engine, because it can't pitch about and rock about and roll as more modern engines do.
This is a more modern engine. It was built in 1902. Unlike Challoner, it was made by specialist loco engineers.
Now, whereas the De Winton engines were the successor to the horse, this little engine is the successor to the De Wintons. Now, this is the posh man's engine, or the rich quarry owners had these only a few years after the De Wintons, but these are a much more conventional engine. They have a horizontal boiler, they have the cylinders and conventional pistons and coupling rods, and they have springs. Now, these engines were not Welsh, they were built in England, and they were built by the Hunslet Company in Leeds. This little engine is a classic. I think there was probably about 100 of these built for the North Wales quarries, and very long-lasting, very durable things they were. Like the De Wintons, there's only really room for one person on these engines. In the old days, they didn't really care a great deal about the drivers. They didn't have cabs, but nevertheless, there was a reason for this, because a lot of these quarries, they had tunnels, and they had to go through these tunnels, so if they put a cab on, it wouldn't go through the tunnel. On the footplate, the controls are extremely primitive. They're basically the same as the De Winton. Very lovely to drive on a nice day.
Name is number 2.
Today, Hunslet Alice enjoys an active retirement on the Leighton Buzzard Light Railway, ironically on the sand quarry line that runs alongside a roof tile factory whose products saw off Welsh slate. Back in Wales, just a mile across the valley from where Hunslet Alice worked, is a railway whose fortunes are very different. It uses Swiss locos to make money from the mountains and hauls people, not rocks.
Mount Snowdon was a tourist attraction long before the railway was thought of. People went up on foot, on horses, on mules.
But for the rest of us, there's a more comfortable way of reaching the heights. 3,560 feet to the top of Snowdon, and you do it sitting down. Return fare, 10 bob. And there are always more customers than seats. 50,000 last year to be exact, so let's take ours. Powerful steel cogs prevent you running backwards, so just relax.
The railway runs up very, very steep gradients, maximum of 1 in 5.5, ordinary adhesion between wheel and rail is insufficient, so all the motive power is transmitted through the rack and the pinion. There is a pinion on the axles of the locomotive engaging with the rack, and that claws its way up the hill using this system.
Mother, what's that funny thing? It's all right, dear. It's only stupid men playing trains. You'll get used to it. The going's getting tougher. In the steepest places, a gradient of 1 in 5, and it's hard work on the engine. But for all its smallness, it's more powerful than many a mainline engine.
The little engines might be powerful, but no mainline passenger would tolerate an hour to do 5 miles. But as the saying goes, it's sometimes better to travel hopefully than to arrive, and Snowdon's passengers are in no hurry. Today, the railway carts 150,000 pleasure seekers up to the summit every year to enjoy the rocks, the view, and a chocolate wagon wheel. There was once a Summit Hotel where the leisured classes could make a weekend of it. These days, the only overnighters are the staff. The railway employs 100 people. Many are descended from workers in the defunct slate mines, like the driver of this engine, Michael Roberts, whose father was a quarryman.
Dwi'n gweithio yma ers 3 mlynedd wrth y dreifar. Da ni'n cyrraedd y copa, barod i fynd i lawr, a da ni'n checio'r injan drosodd, boiliau, a jyst neud y saff bod ti'n barod i fynd i lawr. Oce, yr unig beth da ni'n neud bob dim sy'n symud, gyda ni'r piston, y slide bar, y falia, da ni'n oelio hynna i gyd. Gyda ni springs, da ni'n dweud saff bod y springs yn gyfa, bod na'm byd i torri a ni, bod y pipia, lle o'r pipia sy'n oelio'r bogi a'r axles, dim byd i torri. Os oes na rhywbeth isio saim, da ni'n rhoi saim yn nhw. Dyna fo, rili.
The survival of Snowdon's engines is testimony to their constant care. Lubrication and keeping the fire clean of clinker are essential to keep steam up for the return journey. The locos are never attached to the carriages. They are pushers on the way up and serve as a brake on the way down. Over their 100-year lifetime, each engine has done 250,000 miles. However, number 1 didn't make it beyond the first day.
Tren gyntaf sy'n fyny Wyddfa, nath nhw golli'n injan ar ffordd i lawr, a thi rhedag i ffwrdd, a thi dros yr ochr. Ond yn lwcus oedd y carriage ar wahân, a thi mefoi, ond o'na rwy'n di neidio i ffwrdd ag ath o'i ladd, yn anffodus.
From this inauspicious start, the Snowdon Mountain Railway has never looked back. Unlike other narrow-gauge railways, whose fortunes are inseparable from industrial progress, Snowdon's natural qualities are timeless. Just like the human need for holidays, where the rat race gives way to time, space, and a little train ride to nowhere in particular.
Oh, you've cracked it there, Rob. She is gorgeous.
Belt up, will you?
What?
I said belt up, because belting up in this car is especially safe, because...
Because of a unique program?
Because of a unique programmed...
Restraint system?
Restraint system. Not to mention the twin airbags.
Really?
So, you'll be perfectly safe with me.
That's a shame.
She likes it when you talk technical.
The new Renault Megane. It talks your language.
American Express, how may I help you?
Let's see. Business class, I'll seat as usual.
Travel insurance?
Yes, I'm sure we can find a plan to suit you.
Our credit card would let you spread payments over time.
Right now, you have enough points for a flight to Paris.
I have enough points for a dinner for 2 in Europe.
We made an arrangement just for our customers.
I was just calling to check everything turned out all right.
Glad we could help.
Maybe it's time you let American Express help you do more.
Have you seen my razor?
I think it's on the cabinet.
Okay. Whose is that?
Lars, you know what? It's nothing to do with me.
What do you think you're playing at?
It's not mine. Don't look at
I
me.
thought we told you to be careful.
John, I think we're the ones who should have been careful.
There may be trouble ahead, but while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music and dance.
If your family suddenly grows, so too will your responsibilities. That's why Allied Dunbar financial plans adapt, so you can face the unexpected.
Let's face the music and dance.
Allied Dunbar, for the life you don't yet know.
No arguments, Bill. Get us to Frankfurt by tomorrow morning.
No problem. How about by 10:30?
Can you guarantee 10:30?
UPS can guarantee 8:30 if we want. Costs us a bit more.
No, 10:30 is terrific.
Right then, consider it done.
Whatever happened to, oh, I don't think so, just not possible.
New system. But we can always go back to the old way, sir.
Oh, no, I'll consider it done.
Thank you, sir. You do that.
Guaranteed 10:30 and 8:30 services. Two advantages of Europe's new delivery system, UPS. Consider it done.
When you buy any new Renault Megane Classic, the price includes 3 years warranty, 2 years servicing, and 1 year's road fund license. That's quite a package. Luckily, the Classic's got quite a boot. The Megane Classic 321 package. Good thinking, Renault.
Any more for Tanner Book, please? Any more for Tanner Book, please? Tanner Book.
Since it closed to slate traffic in 1946, the Festiniog Railway has pioneered the running of industrial trains for pleasure. The 14-mile track was built to carry finished slate to Porthmadog to be shipped all over the empire. This is the original works and railway's spiritual home. It's a temple to the fleet of 22 locos and 40 carriages, which are looked after by 1,000 or so railway devotees. In 1869, engineer Robert Fairley tailor-made a powerful loco to work within the limits of narrow gauge. This was the result.
The Fairley is a very powerful locomotive for its size. It's effectively 2 locomotives in one, so you only need 1 crew to man them, which was very important in the manning costs. It was the first articulated locomotive that worked. It has a main carrier with a boiler on top of that, with 2 articulated bogies, which are both powered. So it's a very, very powerful, very compact engine, with all of its weight being transferred onto its powered wheels. So it's able to pull very long, very heavy trains. It needs to be flexible to go round the tight contours of the line, because the line effectively follows the lines in the mountain, and it's cut into a shelf in the mountainside. So by having a locomotive that's articulated, it's able to go around the tight bends which are on this railway, which wouldn't be possible if it was a fixed, rigid wheelbase engine.
Robert Fairley's engine doubled the haulage capacity of the Festiniog and was so successful that in gratitude he waived the patent fee. As a result, modern steam Fairleys have been built that run on oil rather than coal.
We have the Earl of Meirionydd, which was built in 1977, and David Lloyd George, which was built and completed in the 1990s. They're very much the same as the original designs were. David Lloyd George is far more powerful, and the Earl of Meirionydd was built to be able to do the whole line on one fueling of oil and water. So that's austerity style Fairley, if you like. My dad worked on the railway, my grandfather worked on the railway, my granddad on my mother's side worked on the railway. I wanted to be an engine driver. I'm here to fulfill my dream.
This man fulfilled his dream in 1926. On the spongy marshland of the Kent coast, millionaire Captain Jack Howie built a 15-inch gauge railway.
Howie's objective when he built the railway in the first place was to have it completely up to date. He modelled the best and most modern steam locomotives that at that time were roaring up and down between London and Edinburgh. And he wasn't thinking of building a period piece at all. It was going to be a main line in miniature, right bang up to date.
In 1927, right bang up to date meant this, a third-scale model of a mainline express, just like Flying Scotsman. 50 years ago, after wartime service as an army loco driver, George Barlow started at the Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch Railway.
You've got a bunker of coal and a tank of water, and if you don't do things right, then you won't get there. You're making your own power going along, and it's the challenge. We had 13 ungated crossings we still have on the railway. They're controlled by lights now, but of course, no one could envisage the growth of road traffic when this railway was built. You'd have an awful job to build this railway today, crossing public roads on the level 13 times in 14 miles. You're a one-man band. I mean, you've got the engine, you're a fireman, you're the driver. You've got to keep your wits about you because there's sheep and things that get on the track occasionally aren't the same scale as the engines. You mustn't run over any road that you've not looked at. You have to arrange your firing, really, according to the road.
At the end of the line, there's the promise of a Wall's ice cream, the Britannia pub, Dungeness B nuclear power station, and an obsolete lighthouse. Not exactly holiday heaven, but the ride's the thing, isn't it?
The railway has always mainly been for summer visitors and tourists, but it has had some serious traffic as well, which is not entertainment. When war broke out in 1939, of course, the railway was just finishing its summer season. When France fell in spring 1940 and the Germans were just the other side of the water, of course, Romney Marsh became part of the front line of Britain.
When the expected invasion of Britain swept everything into defence, the little puffer went in there and it came out here, a complete armoured train. The Romney Flyer, well armed and manned, took up station to guard the lonely stretch of Kentish coast, which was hers by pride of possession. The steel-plated midget was fully prepared to take a crack at any rosy Nazi trying to mess about on the shores of Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch.
I think the Germans probably came over looking for the first railway to drop bombs on that they could find, hoping that it would be the main line to London. But it was quite often the Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch.
In spite of bomb damage, the railway reopened in 1946, and by March 1947 it came of age. Tony Baker was the driver on that day and remembers some special guests.
Captain Howie, the owner, and Major Holder, the manager, invited Laurel and Hardy to come down from the Palladium in London, where they were appearing, to reopen the railway through to Dungeness.
When the Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch Railway, the smallest public railway in the world, recently celebrated its 21st birthday, Messrs. Laurel and Hardy were invited to the party.
Hardy walked to the tunnel, tried the key in the door so that we could go through to Dungeness.
They also slipped gently aboard one of the trains and enjoyed a trip on this very comfortable line. At New Romney Station, they met the mayor and shook hands all round.
They got up on the engine at New Romney and had a chat, and Hardy swapped hats with me with my driver's hat. It was a very, very good day and really enjoyed by all.
Since Laurel and Hardy left, the railway's enjoyed thousands more good days. "70 years on, Northern Chief is one of a fleet of 9 that still roar along the Kent coast. Unlike their full-size counterparts from the 1920s, this fleet has survived intact. Narrow gauge railways, whether built on the whim of millionaires or to slave away up Welsh mountains, all serve as miniature reminders of the great days of steam.
Next week, the appeal of the tram, which is enjoying something of a renaissance. Classic Trains next Monday at 8:30. And Classic Trains by Nicholas Faith will be available shortly in most bookshops, price £17.99.